Soyez savoir, we love Today FM. Today FM rocks.
Today's hit music on Today FM.
In this bulletin, Pacific Islands face dual crisis. No ban on harvest and sale of giant clams. And MOU to help curb illegal activities in forestry sector.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Ateda Lendua.
The Pacific Island countries are facing a dual crisis, climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic, says Prime Minister Borenke Bainimarama. Bainimarama joined 100 speakers, including leaders and experts, in the 2020 Virtual Island Summit to share Fiji's journey to economic recovery. The Prime Minister says island nations must stand together with a more united voice than ever before. He urged the leaders who were part of the summit to be inspired by the stories of innovation that will be shared and take the initiative to implement real and meaningful change at home. He also highlighted that we need to be the voices that urge leaders around the world to pursue an inclusive and sustainable recovery from COVID-19. Bainimarama says, while our people may be at the front lines of great emergencies like climate change, we can also be at the cutting edge of sustainable development. The local government ministry confirms that it is well within its means to facilitate the increasing number of applications for certain developments within our urban centres. This has been assured by Minister Pramila Kumar, who says they've received over 100 development or property investment applications in the last 2 years. Kumar adds the ministry currently employs 7 qualified planners who have facilitated 946 applications received from January to June.
When you compare with 2019, this year, in the first 6 months, we have received more application as compared to last year. So which is a sign of confidence. Probably the locals have, or because of COVID-19, some people are at home and they want to now renovate their property, or they feel this is the right time to renovate their property. So we encourage that, and we are very grateful that our local investors have decided to invest in their properties.
The clarification that there is no ban on the sale and harvest of giant clams, locally known as wasua, has come as a shock to vendors. Minister for Fisheries Semi Korelabisa confirmed to FBC News last week that there is no ban in place. Korelabisa clarified the ban is only on the export of the species. The vendors at the Suva market say they've been unaware of this since last year and have been losing out on sales.
Basically, the ban on the clams is the export of clams itself. So this is an issue. I think there seems to be misconception and misinformation within our markets on the issue. We will issue a guideline that will be released this week on the issue of wasua.
I've been here for the past 10, 12 years now. The wasua was not on banned. So I came to shop when they come same time. They didn't give us a warning. They just same time took my wasua and take it to
The government, in close collaboration with the Ministry of Environment and other relevant stakeholders, is developing a container deposit legislation, an effort aimed at a more greener Fiji. The container deposit legislation will require the collection of a monetary deposit on beverage containers at the point of sale. A partial or full refund can be given to consumers if they return the container to an authorized redemption center.
We are also developing the container deposit legislation at the Ministry of Environment, and the styrofoam plastic ban, which we announced as part of the national budget, will come into effect on 1st January 2021.
A 64-year-old female is the latest COVID-19 border quarantine case in Fiji. This new case has raised a total active quarantine cases to 6. Acting Permanent Secretary for Health, Dr. James Fong, says the woman arrived on a repatriation flight in New Delhi on the 27th of last month. He says she is the third border quarantine case confirmed among the passengers who are on board the flight. Dr. Fong says the patient has been under strict conditions since her arrival in Nandi and is currently in a stable condition. She is under observation at the isolation ward at the Lotoka Hospital. The frontline border staff who were directly involved with the passengers on this flight have also been tested and all results returned negative. The Ministry of Forestry will now be sharing information with the Fiji Revenue and Customs Services about companies operating within the forestry sector. A memorandum of understanding was today signed between the two agencies. Permanent Secretary for Forestry Pene Balenambuli says this will help them clamp down on illegal activities in the forestry sector and its subsequent contribution to the black economy.
This is important because government as a whole is focused on growing the economy. But also part of growing the economy is our ability to accurately capture the flow of revenue. And so, and that includes the payment of taxes as well.
Fiji now has an adequate number of mental health services when compared with the past. With stress wards at Lotoka, Lambasa and the CWM Hospital in Suva, Health Minister Dr. Efiremi Wangainambete says Fijians don't need to worry about accessing these services. Dr. Wangainambete says the ministry has a cohort of doctors and nurses who have been trained in this area. He says they are personnel working in these stress wards who have the capability to address issues surrounding mental health problems.
Thank you so much for availing.
So they have that capacity for support in terms of helping to diagnose and providing counseling. Certainly, in terms of treatment, in terms of prescribing medicine, that the doctors alone do it.
The input of those in the trade and private sector will be important during the validation consultation meeting for the 6th National Reporting to the Convention on Biological Diversity. This is also the first EIA clinic for the fiscal year and is critical as the loss of biodiversity and ecosystems are occurring at a rapid speed. Minister for Waterways, Dr. Mahendra Reddy, says the report will help highlight Fiji's progress in meeting its obligations under the Convention of Biological Diversity.
Fiji is known for its globally distinctive ecosystem and biodiversity. It's of intrinsic value to all of us Fijians, to the extent that the business sector have been blending their product services using the stock of biological resources. This value arises from the fact that our economy, ecological life support, recreation, cultural and scientific factors depend heavily on our biodiversity.
Up ahead, FRU continues talks with Suva referees and key player returns for Messino.
Bula FM, number 2 and seri.
Bula FM, number 2 and seri.
The Fiji Rugby Union is still in talks with the Suva Referees Association on their stance to boycott all Naitasiri under-19 skipper matches. Chief Executive John O'Connor says while they respect the stance taken by the Referees Association, it's time everyone moves on from the matter. O'Connor says further discussions will be held later this week before the next round of Skipper Cup commences on Saturday.
Yeah, the incident has happened, and the perpetrator has been taken to task through a fair and transparent process. A judicial officer has made a decision, and I think we just need to move on and recognize that it's one person, and I think the game is bigger than everyone.
Melbourne rising player Jose Batamani is taking advantage of his time in Fiji by playing for his hometown Obalau in the Vodafone Vanua Cup. The 23-year-old came to Fiji in March and has not been able to return due to the border restrictions. The Wangandadi Obalau native was instrumental in the All Capital side's 26-22 win over Boer last week. Batamani has rated Fiji rugby as more physical when compared to what he's used to in his club in Australia.
How we play the sport in Australia is different from how we play the sport here in Fiji. In Fiji, it's more physical and a totally different level.
The Fiji National Rugby League plans to have a separate, first-of-its-kind, full-scale women's competition next year.
Immensely proud of the fact that we've been able to get some women to play last Saturday here.
To play against his hometown team will be nothing less than a scintillating experience for Nasinu striker Jashneet Vikash. The Lambasa lad did not feature in last week's Vodafone Premier League clash against Rewa due to an injury, but will recover in time for Sunday's match. Tale Materakula reports.
The 26-year-old hopes all odds will be in favor of the visiting side when they take on Lambasa on their home turf.
It's really an amazing feeling playing in Subrel Park against Lambasa. We did manage to draw against them in the BUG, looking for a better outcome this time around.
Head coach Tangi Vonolangi says Vikash's return from injury will be a boost for the Giant Killers.
And he's recovering well, he's training again this week, so he'll be one of our trump card in the game against Lambasa this weekend. So a northern boy will be playing against his team.
I have been doing my personal trainings, still not 100% yet, but working towards it. So hopefully we'll be 100% come Sunday.
Pointing out areas needing improvements, Vonolangi says capitalizing on possessions will be key.
The boys have played and they know the system, so it's just the finishing that we are worried about, that they are not scoring goals. They want to take the ball closer to the goal line and then create opportunities there, which in other way they can just take shot from outside the box or wherever, so we are working hard on that.
Nasinu will travel to Subrel Park on Sunday, where they will take the field against Lambasa at 1:30 p.m. Tali Materkula, FBC Sports.
A trough of low pressure lies just to the north of the group. Associated cloud and showers affect the northern and eastern parts of the country. Another trough of low pressure to the west of Fiji is expected to gradually move east and affect the rest of the country from tonight. And that's your FBC News now. Join us again at 7 p.m. for our major bulletin. In times of crisis, you need news you can trust. Get the verified facts from FBC's TV, radio, and digital news, fbcnews.com.fj, keeping Fijians connected with the truth. Enjoy your lunch.
Bula FM, number 2 NSR.
Bula FM, number 2 NSR.